Everybody's got a price, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a pod, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus D'Angelo. We are back for another episode of Everybody's Got a Pod. And, of course, I'm joined by the man himself, WWE Hall of Famer, the legendary $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Ted, how you doing, my friend?
Today, I feel like $1 million.
I'm always glad when I hear that.
Sometimes I wake up and I feel like a quarter. But today, I feel pretty good.
Man, after all the years of taking bumps, I get it.
And for anyone out there, I'm getting on an airplane, and I am flying to Cleveland. I'm going to make an appearance for AIW in the Cleveland area.
That's right. Absolute Intense Wrestling. I know a lot of the guys that work there, and it's a really great promotion out there in Cleveland. Folks, that is tomorrow. Well, actually, today is as this podcast is coming out. It's July 18th, 2025, Cleveland, Ohio, and that is going to be at 2325 Elm Street there in Cleveland. It's Absolute Intense Wrestling. Those guys put on a great show, and Ted DiBiase is going to be there, so you get some great wrestling.
Signing autographs, shaking hands, and kissing babies.
Man, you get some wrestling. You get to meet Ted DiBiase. He doesn't get much better than that. It's Absolute Intense Wrestling there in Cleveland. Go out of your way to check that out tonight if you're in the Cleveland or the surrounding area. And buddy, that's going to be exciting. And today our episode is really exciting because back by popular demand, we are looking back 45 years to 1980. Now, we spoke before about January through, I believe it would have been March or April 1980. And now we're back. And brother, there was a lot going on, and I can't wait to get into it if you're ready.
I'm ready.
Now, look, I asked if you were ready, but I'm actually not ready yet because, Ted, I did have to tell you about something pretty significant that happened. You know, this past weekend, it was a really big weekend in wrestling. You know, there was Saturday night's main event and a match that might be Goldberg's last match. A lot of people are thinking that he might make another return. On the other side, with AEW, Hangman Adam Page won their championship at All In Texas, which is a really big deal. But Ted, the biggest deal of all, out of everything that happened this past weekend in professional wrestling, the biggest deal, the thing that everybody's talking about, is the fact that I won a championship.
Oh, brother, you set me up for that.
With International Wrestling Cartel this past Saturday. And Ted, I've got a clip of it. I'm going to show it to you and let you know that you are the reason that I won this match. You're going to find out why when you have a look. Let's
all right.
Hey, stomping him now.
Referee, pull him out of there.
He has till 5. And Cause
get him out of there.
Hammering away now.
Hey,
on D'Angelo.
Hey, he's got him.
And finally pull.
Oh, hey, that's a disqualification. Get him out of there. Give the title to Marcus.
We've never quite seen that kind of aggression before from Cause. Cause just pushed the official right off of him. And what is Marcus D'Angelo doing here?
What do you mean?
Look what he has right in his hand.
What are you talking about?
What is he doing right there? He's loading that glove again.
Look,
the camera's clearly on
adjusting his hand. His hand, it's been hurt.
And we've seen this time and time again. And
what a shot!
But what the hell, D'Angelo?
Shades of Muhammad Ali, shades of Rocky Marciano, you name it.
It's a last man standing match, so he's got a 10 count.
Here.
That is definitely not Joe Louis, but D'Angelo, my goodness.
Oh, my God.
Loaded glove and all.
Hey! Let's go!
And the counts now begin.
Austin!
He's at 6.
Austin, you are witnessing history!
And this is just garbage.
This could
Count
be!
Of 8, Cause is not moved. D'Angelo's still on his feet
moment
at 9.
in wrestling
and here
history!
It is. That's it.
Yeah!
D'Angelo's now the champion.
And new high stakes champion Marcus D'Angelo.
All right. There was Ted, the new high stakes champion. Thanks for the assist on that glove.
Do what?
And thank you for the assist on that glove.
Yeah, man, the glove. The thing was about the glove. is back then, it's kind of like you couldn't. I'm, I was. I couldn't find a. I mean, I couldn't. I could find a glove, but not like a. I don't know what I'm
A
trying to
black,
think.
a black like biker's glove.
Yeah, but and so what I ended up doing at the time is I would get these other gloves and I would actually have to paint them black. But eventually, they started making them. But I would, that old liquid uh, shoe polish.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I have the little ball on the end of it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what I that's what I paint my. They're like a workout glove.
Yeah.
And I would paint them black. And it's like, what'd you load the glove with, DiBiase? Well, I would wrap up. I would take athletic tape, and obviously I was traveling and living in a lot of hotels, and so I'd take one of those little bars of soap and wrap up the soap with the thing, and I knocked everybody out with a little bar of soap.
Oh man, the secrets of the trade. I'm not going to give away what I've been using as my load.
Okay.
I'll tell that on a podcast in 45 years. But no, man, it was really cool. It's a cool moment to be able to win my first title, especially with that glove in that tradition. And I don't know if I've told you this, but people backstage, a few people have taken to calling me Little DiBiase, which is really funny. Yeah, because I stole your gimmicks, so I'm like, so I'm the new DiBiase. But yeah, man, just wanted to share that with you. It's a cool moment in my career. Didn't really hit me till I was in the car. I climb in the car and I'm headed home, and I'm like, wow, I won a championship in wrestling. This is
Cool.
3 years ago. If you would have told me that was going to happen, I wouldn't have believed it. So yeah, but just a cool moment. I did want to mention though, Ted, one of the things that you'll notice in that video is I got the belt, I snatched it, and I left right away. And that wasn't my original thought. My thought was I was going to take the belt and parade around and kind of get some aggression out of the fans. But a veteran worker backstage, his name is Jock Sampson. He's been wrestling for a long time. He said, "No, dude." He said, "Grab that belt and leave with your heat." And I'm curious about your take on leaving with your heat. What does it mean?
Well, I would agree. It's because 1, 2, 3. Obviously, you and all the fans know that you cheated, to win the match, and so before anything else has time to take place, get the damn belt and head to the pad.
Yep. And it worked. It worked. A lot of people were pissed. So I got the reaction I wanted there. And with that, we'll get into our subject. Ted, we're looking back to 1980, of course, and we're going to pick up that story where we left off. You're the Mid-South North American champion, and your brief rivalry with Killer Khan is going to wrap up with a lights-out match in the Municipal Auditorium there in New Orleans. From there, you're going to have a match that really, really stood out for me. I knew that you were a big fan of Killer Karl Kox, but in my mind, he was from the generation of wrestlers prior to yours. But here you are, you'd work with him here in June 1980 and win by DQ in Kansas City for Central States Wrestling. Ted, stepping in there with Killer Karl Kox, pretty incredible. What can you tell us about working with him?
Well, the first time I met him is the first time we went to Amarillo, the territory, and I was a kid, and we had an apartment for a while, and he was right around the corner in the same apartment complex with us. Killer Karl Kox, I mean, he was one, in my opinion, one of the greatest heels I've ever seen or had the pleasure to work with. And yes, Karl Kox, basically, he was from my father's generation. And I think, because I remember the first time I met him. And you know what his real name is?
What?
Herbert Gerwig.
I can see why maybe he changed it.
and he had been in the service. I think he, back then we're not talking about. I don't even think we're talking about Vietnam. I think he maybe had gone to World War II.
Wow. Yeah, I guess he's that age group. Yeah.
But I mean, again, well, yeah, my father was in the Navy, so and during World War II.
Man. So
You
Killer
know,
Karl Kox, he was a badass for real. Yeah, but that
oh
name
yeah,
Gerwig, maybe not quite as
yeah,
intimidating.
Herbert Gerwig,
Maybe not quite as
in this
intimidating.
corner, Herbert Gerwig. Killer Karl Kox is a lot better, and yet absolutely tremendous heel. I saw him and Dick Murdoch have one of the greatest programs ever.
Yeah.
It was just really good.
You're part of another really cool match during this time as well. The Fabulous Freebirds had just formed in May of 1980, and 1 month later, June 1980, you're tag teaming with Buck Robley against them. This time with the combination being Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts. Ted, this is months before the pile driver incident in Georgia, which we will talk about this
Yeah.
year. So hang in there, folks. We'll discuss it. But at this early stage for the Freebirds, what did you think of this new group and the kind of heat that they were getting right out of the gate?
Oh, I thought it was great. I'll tell you what, Terry Gordy was a great worker. I mean, he was a great worker. He was so good. Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes, you give him a microphone, he was great. He was a spokesperson for that team. He was a great idea guy. Okay.
Yep.
It's like I wasn't. You know what? Here's the match. Here's the situation. Okay, who am I working with? And if I know what the story, the bigger story is, obviously, then it can help me tell the match, tell the story that I need to tell for that night. Michael was a guy who could take that and he would be like a great booker, and say, okay, here's where we're going. Here's where we want to end up. Now let's start there and work backwards.
Michael, and the proof is in the pudding with him. He's still going today with WWE and, working behind the scenes and helping them with their great product. So you don't get to last that long with WWE if you're not a great mind.
No.
Yeah. So good for him, man. Yesterday, as we're recording this, marked the anniversary of Terry Gordy's passing. Ted, if you can sum up Bam Bam as a performer, how would you do it?
Hey, great. He was great. I mean, he was one of those guys, who, it just came natural to him. And, of all the guys that I've had the opportunity or the pleasure to work with, like if I knew I was working, either as a teammate or as an opponent, he was great. Absolutely good.
Really, really gifted. Going back and watching a lot of his stuff now, you can really see where, like, for a guy his size to be able to move the way that he could, boy, he was just kind of a one-of-one type performer.
Yeah. Good guy. Great guy. Gosh, he's been gone a while too, hasn't he?
He has. I can't remember what year it was that he passed away. I want to say it was like the early 2000s or something like that. But he was never.
What he passed away from?
Hang on, let me have a look. So he passed away in 2001, and it was a heart attack caused by a blood clot.
And I was shocked. And I don't know if he even knew he had that blood clot.
Well, if you remember, he wasn't quite the same anymore either. On the way to Japan, he was on a flight, and I think he OD'd, and his brain had been deprived of oxygen long enough to cause a little bit of brain damage. Now he was still functional, but and he still wrestled for a while. But everybody, by all accounts, says the Terry Gordy that they once knew, this great performer, just wasn't him anymore, right?
Yeah. I forgot that, but yeah.
Man, what a shame! What a shame for like a generational performer like that. But still, his legacy is it's amazing as part of the Freebirds and everything he did.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, time to pause the show to talk about one of my favorite sponsors, and a sponsor that I know is a huge favorite for all the men listening to the podcast right now. Of course, I am talking about Blue Chew. By the way, not just a favorite for the men. I think the ladies can really appreciate the benefits of Blue Chew as well if you smell what I'm stepping in. Blue Chew is like a cheat code for your crotch, pal. Stronger, harder, longer lasting. It's like somebody gave your downstairs a little pep talk. And brother, Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. Guys, you know that moment when you're coming in from grocery shopping, and if you're like me, you want to make one trip. You grab everything all at once, fill up your arms. You know, for me, it's like I'm from my shoulder all the way down to my wrist, and then my hands are full of groceries trying to get into the house and not have to make a second trip. Well, let me tell you, Blue Chew is so effective, you're going to have another appendage to hang groceries off of to bring all those in because, brother, it is going to get your dick rock hard. You're going to love it. Your partner is certainly going to love it. If you haven't tried Blue Chew yet, you could be missing out on the very best sex of your life. But listen, it isn't just about performance. It's about legacy, or third legacy, if you will. Give her group chat something to talk about. You know what those girls are on there texting about you. Why don't you give your wife or girlfriend or significant other, spouse, whoever, something good to talk about? Nothing is going to make you more of a legend than a little Blue Chew. It's time to discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. As always, get your first month of Blue Chew free. Just use promo code EGAP at checkout and pay $5 for shipping. That's it. I'm telling you right now, you are getting erections sent to you in the mail for free. You really cannot do much better on a deal than that. Like, honestly, what do you have to lose? Just give this thing a try. If for whatever reason you end up not liking it, don't do it again. All you lost is $5. It is seriously worth just trying out. Not just for you. Do it for your partner, pal. Join Blue Chew's mission to upgrade humanity one thrust at a time. Head to BlueChew.com for details and safety information. And we want to give Blue Chew a big thanks for sponsoring Everybody's Got a Pod. I mentioned before that you worked at Killer Karl Kox for Central States Wrestling in Kansas City, and you're going to continue to bounce between Mid-South and Central States throughout July of 1980. So I'm curious, Ted, when your primary territory is Mid-South, how does the opportunity come up to go over there and work for this other company?
You mean Kansas City?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Bob Geigel and my dad were great friends. And of course, my dad was, he died in '69 when I was 15 years old. And, but my dad was a guy who was extremely respected because, and Bob Geigel, I can't remember where, I think Geigel maybe went to Iowa. I can't remember what his college was, but again, my dad was from Nebraska. I mean, we're talking, he used to work Kansas City out of Omaha. Okay. One of the towns in the Kansas City territory is St. Joe, Missouri. That was one of the towns. It's about 100 miles from Kansas City, and of course, it was about 100 miles from Omaha. So that tells you, Omaha, Nebraska is only like 200 miles from Kansas City.
Yeah.
And my dad worked Kansas City for a while. Even though he was working the Kansas City territory, he was working it from home. Like, when he would go home, he'd drive back to Omaha.
Wow. And now here you are doing the same thing.
That he might have to stay over, but for the most part, he would come home.
And now here you are in 1980 doing the same thing, going between Mid-South and Central States every so often. So it's cool. I guess, you get an extra.
Yeah, well, what it was, because here's the thing, and it's really weird. St. Louis, Missouri is technically part of the Kansas City territory.
Ah.
But St. Louis was such a big city, and St. Louis became an entity to itself. It's like if you got booked in Kansas City, or if you were good enough to get booked in St. Louis, everybody's going to be looking at you because you're going places.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things that I did. Even after I left. I mean, there were times when I was working for Bill Watts, and I would tell Bill that I said, these are the dates that they want me in St. Louis, and he'd say, fine, you can do that, and I did.
Ah, okay. So Bill was pretty agreeable as far as letting you bounce around from place to place.
Well, as long as yeah. I mean, he drove a tough ship too, but he understood.
Good. Well, while we're talking about your busy schedule from these days, it is making me wonder a little bit about your personal life during this period. How tough was the work-life balance in these days for you? Where it's like I know that you're on the road a lot for Bill. You're also making some shots up in Kansas City. Like it's got to be hard to establish that home life while you're still making your bones
Yeah,
on the road.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'll be honest, Marcus. Like when I look back at it, I never should have got married when I got married.
Mm,
I think I married Jeanette when I was 20 years old. I just turned 20. It was hard on her. I mean, it was kind of like I was going and coming and going and coming, but she's in an apartment in a town she doesn't know, and we only had one car.
oh
And
man.
if it was the week or whatever that I had to drive my car, then she's not only there, she's got no way to get around.
Yeah, it had to have been difficult on her to have you gone all the time, especially in a young new marriage like that. But at the same time, it's you're trying to make your career. Ted, something that Jake and I talk about a lot on our show, and it's something I've never brought up to you, is so not only are you out here trying to balance this work-life, relationship, but also a pretty underrated part of being a wrestler in those days is you're trying to build your career. But while you're doing this, you're essentially a freelancer, an independent contractor out here working. You don't have health insurance, and you're working in an industry where injuries are pretty prevalent. Back in these days, Ted, when you would suffer an injury, how were you taking care of yourself?
Well, I tell you what, Marcus, I didn't have too many. I don't know. I had bumps and bruises, but I never had a serious injury.
Wow.
Never had a serious injury like a knee or an ankle or what have you. What I ended up having that eventually showed itself was this thing. I had two discs taken out of my neck, and it's in your where your spine meets your neck. I don't know what they call that, cervical.
Yeah.
There's and you know what, Jake's had the same surgery,
Hmm.
C5 and C6, and that's right. It's right where your shoulders meet your neck. So every time as a wrestler that you hit that mat, and you got to keep you got to keep your head forward so you don't knock yourself out. Right.
Yep.
All the majority of that weight or that thing is coming. It's coming right there, right there at the base of your neck and spine.
Wow.
I C5 and C6, and I think Jake's had the same. But I had, I got my arm would start hurting and feel like it was on fire, and it's like a fire I could put out and everything. And eventually I went to a doctor, and he said, "Yeah, we got it." And they took two bone chips from my hip, I think. And anyway, I don't know how they do. They do it differently now, but they took the two discs out and replaced it with something, and then I was okay after that. But that was why, that was the cause.
So up until then, you'd never really suffered any serious injuries along the way?
No, no. I mean, I grew up in the business. I learned how to work
And protect yourself.
and protect myself and at that time, I was not like, I was like, I wasn't the only match all the time, but I was, I eventually worked my way up to where I was, well, when I went back to work for Bill Watts, I was his biggest baby face.
You're definitely in a good spot. As you move along here in 1980, you're gonna get into another interesting match with a partner that I would have never guessed you would have teamed up with. On July 12th, 1980, you'll team up with Rufus R. Jones and Pat O'Connor against Bob Brown, Killer Karl Kox, and Ox Baker. Ted, the idea of you teaming up with Pat O'Connor is wild. He's considered an all-time great from the generation prior to yours, and now here's this intermingling of eras. What do you remember about working with Pat O'Connor?
Well, Pat O'Connor was a great worker. I think he was a pretty good shooter too. And Pat O'Connor and the guy I told his name is Bob Geigel.
Mm-hmm.
They became partners, and I think they were co-owners of had become the Kansas City territory.
Yeah.
That's where Pat O'Connor went. And I think that's, whether he was the guy who invited me or said, hey, if you want to whenever you're ready, give us a call and we'll get you started. And so, and Pope Pat and as well, even though Kansas City was even though St. Louis is technically part of the Kansas City territory, St. Louis was like an entity unto itself. A lot of the talent that came in and out of St. Louis were from all the territories.
Man, really cool. And you're not done getting unique pairings during this time. You'll get another interesting one as we wrap up July of 1980. On July 27th, you're going to team up with David Von Erich against Dick Murdoch and Baron Von Raschke. What do you remember about David as a person and as a performer?
Oh, man, he was a good guy. Good guy, and of all the Von Erichs, he was the best worker. Yeah, he was without a doubt. I mean, his brothers were.
Yeah, rumor has it that his brothers kind of enjoyed the party scene a little bit more, maybe than they enjoyed the in-ring part of things. But David was like a worker's worker.
Yeah, he was. He was a good guy.
I do have to ask too about Baron Von Raschke, man. This guy, what a legend!
I love that guy. Hey, and what's really funny, we're both from Nebraska. And I would say that Baron Von Raschke from Omaha, Nebraska.
What a character he is too.
Oh yeah, and good. He was good.
Yeah, great heel, right?
Yeah, great heel.
I had the pleasure of meeting the Baron last year at Waterloo, Iowa, at the Hall of Fame, and just like, man, cool to see it. Like, he's one of those guys that even the boys kind of pop for whenever they see him. What's funny is that as the Baron's walking around, even a lot of the boys that were there were like doing the old like, this is all you need to know, holding up the claw like the Baron would. So just really cool to see him still out and about.
Yeah, and you know what the wrestler's handshake is, right?
What's that?
When you shake the hand of another guy that's in the business, you just do it you don't grip them.
The dead fish handshake.
Yeah, it's because like that stands for it's a work.
That means like the guy's going to be gentle with you in the ring. What's really funny, Ted, is that obviously working in wrestling, I shake hands with tons of wrestlers, and at one point somebody introduced me to Tommy Rich. So I've been shaking hands with folks, and I was new to the business at the time, so I'm just shaking everybody's hand the same way. Somebody introduces me to Tommy Rich, and he gave me the dead fish handshake. And at first I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I pulled my hand away. Like, what the hell was that? But here it's like, that's like the rite of passage where you're showing people like, hey, I'm not going to hurt you in the ring. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just wrestlers in general, when they would greet each other, you might pat the guy on the back. When you give him your hand, you give him like the dead fish, like you just barely touch. Oh yeah.
Man, what a cool culture it is, and what a cool episode this was, man. I love getting to look back at this time in your career 45 years ago in 1980. Story isn't done. We've still got plenty to discuss when it comes to what happened to you that year, but we're done for now. And next time we talk, Ted, we're going to be talking about 1995, 30 years ago, and a pretty infamous event. It was In Your House 2. There was a walkout from some performers at that event. It was a big main event between Sid and Diesel. So, man, looking forward to chatting with you again.
I appreciate you, Marcus. You're oftentimes when you do this, you're taking me down memory lane. So, but until next time, I just have to remind all of you people that everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
See you guys next time right here on Everybody's Got a Pod.